Okay guys, as you can tell from the intro, I wanted to do a little advertising or promotion of the Mellings bracket BD417-BRKT. It is basically a no drill bolt-on bracket that allows you to run an LS2 style chain guide. These earlier Gen 3 engines, you would normally have to drill your block and add the threaded holes to be able to mount the LS2 timing chain guide. So I just want to kind of throw this out there real quick, just kind of as an update. I am actually kind of stuck in limbo, still waiting on parts to show up. But let me get this information out before we get into the holdup on the build. Basically what you're looking at is a Gen 3 timing chain set. The crank gear and the cam gear came out of the 2002 4.8 engine, which is this block. Upgraded it to a brand new LS2 timing chain. This bracket system that uses 3 of your 4 cam plate bolts to mount this bracket that in turn mounts this LS2 guide setup. You know, I had, talked about, I think previously, I know I have, about wanting to add or upgrade to the LS2 chain guide on this engine, if and when I did build this one. Well, then it turns out I got kind of pushed into doing a build on this a little bit quicker than I was expecting. So, get this background where it's at top dead, or the timing marks are lined up. Anyway, got to looking online, and I was showing my friend Richard. I said, hey, have you ever seen one of these brackets? I said, these things are, really cool. You don't have to drill your block, and you can still get the benefits of the LS2 guide. And he's like, no, I haven't seen those yet. So I was, the other night I was online. I was just kind of doing a search, and I think, I don't have the receipt in front of me, but I think this was under $40. Like, if I remember correctly, I want to say it was like $36 or $37 free shipping. And it comes with the plate, the Allen head screws, the adapters, because apparently there's 2 different styles of this little plastic guide. And then it comes with both options so that you can mount your guide to the bracket. It's literally just a bolt-on piece, and I had that brand new cam plate. So really all I had to do was just hit everything with blue Loctite, torque them to spec, put these on, torque them down, and we're good to go. So what you're seeing right here in front of you, like I said, is the Gen 3 crank or cam gear, LS2 chain, LS2 guide. The reason why I have this plate on here is because I actually degreed this cam. So the degree bushing that I had to drill this gear, add the bushing to set the cam timing on the intake center line. You put this plate over the end of that so that it can't move out of the gear. Like I had put little, they call it peening, but you just take a punch and kind of bend the metal in a little bit on the edges where it's not supposed to come out. But as cheap as this thing was, I think it was like under $5 or $6 or something at Star Performance, I just went ahead and bought one of these cam retainer plates or bolt retainer plates to hold in the degree bushing. Again, all these are blue Loctited so they won't back out, because there's a lot of people reporting problems with vibration causing those cam bolts to back out. So I just want to make sure. So I hit everything, every fastener that has anything to do with the timing chain or the gears, cam plate, everything got blue Loctite. Everything got torqued to spec. It's on there, it's ready to roll. So I wanted to kind of share that as far as, the 4.8 turbo build. That is the Elgin 1838P cam. For some reason, maybe it's just inconsistencies or something to do with the differences between a factory timing chain and gears and what Elgin uses when they make their cam. That cam comes on a lobe separation angle of 114. According to the Elgin website, they recommend installation of 110 intake centerline. When I was, doing it dot to dot with no modifications to the cam gear, I was only getting 108 intake centerline, and I was like, well, that's advanced 6 degrees, which isn't, horrible. A lot of cam companies will have you install the cam, generally about 5 degrees advanced, so that you can account for that maybe 1 degree of variance as the chain kind of stretches on initial break-in. But I just didn't want to go 6 degrees advanced. I just went ahead and degreed it in at, I believe my exact numbers ended up being 109.75 intake centerline. So at least it's, within a reasonable amount to what Elgin wants it to be at. Some people might be saying, well, what difference does that make? What does that do by changing that intake centerline? Just keep in mind, as you advance a camshaft, you actually increase the low end torque, but at the same time, you lower the amount of power it makes at the higher RPMs. So if you think of lobe separation angles or intake center lines, when you advance it to a smaller number, you're getting more low end torque, but at the sacrifice of top end horsepower. Well, then the opposite is also true. When you have a wider lobe separation angle, a wider intake center line, you kind of move the power more to the mid and upper RPMs, but you adversely could lose a few foot-pounds of torque off idle or at the low RPM. I don't know that I'm going to even notice a difference, because this cam is installed as Elgin intends it to be. So I'm assuming that it's going to run as I expect it to. So knock on wood, hopefully that's going to happen. Real quick, right now the camshaft is set. The main bolts are all torqued. I end up using brand new sealed power HT2148 lifters. I did not soak the lifters. Like, I previously kind of had a habit of soaking lifters, and because I plan on using a power lube setup to lube this engine, I'm not too worried about it. But I've seen a lot of feedback where people were saying, don't pre-soak your lifters, bend a push rod or do some kind of weird things where it like hangs up and, I don't know, holds valves open. There's a lot of negatives that people were reporting online. And I said, well, it's not going to be the end of the world if I don't soak them. So basically, I lubed the bodies of them with a little straight STP, slid them down in there, squirted them all with a little bit of oil just from the top, and then put the lifter trays in. So basically just went with 2002 lifter trays, because they seemed to be in really good shape and cleaned up really well. So I've got all that installed. Those bolts are, tightened down, all that junk. To the point I was going to say, I am held up, and I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys, full disclosure. My modified small block Chevy adjustable ring compressor sprung. Okay, maybe if I had released the tension on the hose clamp that goes around that modified small block Chevy ring compressor, this may not have happened. But what happened was, I modified that ring compressor, showed on video where I could use it to assemble my engine, and I have since let the band loose to try to at least save it for small block Chevy use. But what happened was, I left that hose clamp 100% tightened to get that smaller bore, and it literally collapsed the ring. Like, it still doesn't look like I'm even going to be able to use it for a small block Chevy piston, but literally just I'm going to call it clamshelled and just collapsed. it collapsed down to such an extreme egg shape that I wasn't able to assemble my engine. So what does that mean? It means that I had to break down, call Summit Racing and order one of their 3.78 tapered ring compressor tools, which wasn't that expensive, but it was just a headache that delayed the program for longer than I was hoping. Should be here any day now. As soon as that ring compressor comes in the mail, I'll have all the pistons and rods installed, and that part of it will be done, and we can start moving forward with this build. It's really frustrating. You know, went to assemble it, couldn't get the piston in, I'm like, why is this not working when it worked perfectly on the video? Why is it not working? Finally kind of pulled everything apart, started looking at it, and I was like, wait a minute, this thing isn't even close to being round anymore, and it's super tight on two, you know, it just sprung. It just basically just collapsed that aluminum ring. So shame on me. I had actually modified something to work, but in hindsight, I should have left the stupid thing untensioned and only tensioned it when I got ready to assemble the engine and not left all that tension on that ring. But, you know, live and learn. Sometimes we try things. Sometimes we, you know, shoot ourselves in the foot even when we don't mean to. So, the better product is on the way. It has very good reviews. It was only, I don't know, I think it was like 28 bucks or something. 28 or $30 with, I can't remember if they charged me shipping or not. I hate the fact that they've changed so many things, but at least they got rid of their minimum order fees and all that junk they used to have. But should be here by, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. Another problem I had, I just wanted to throw out there, was where I drilled to try to tap my timing chain cover for my turbo drain. That process was not working out. So I ended up having to order it's almost like a drain plug kit you put in the bottom of your transmission pan or something like that, but it's like a -10 turbo drain that actually bolts into the cover or to your oil pan. So it literally is like a -10 fitting with a, I don't know what kind of thread on the bottom, but it literally comes with a big nut, 2 washers, and it sandwiches the oil pan or the timing chain cover, which is actually going to be a blessing for me because there's so little room between the timing chain cover and the harmonic dampener that I needed that fitting to be as flush to that cover as possible to get that 90-degree fitting in there. So I did not do a what they call dog leg 90. I ended up buying one of those AN 90 degrees, so it kind of comes out a little farther than you'd expect as it makes that 90-degree turn. So that's where I'm at right now. Hopefully you guys are trying to stay with me on this build. I got delayed a little bit, but I've spent a little bit of money, and I've got some more parts that should be here in the next 2 days. So I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you'll stick with me on this 4.8 turbo build. It's just a process, guys, I got to go through, trying to cover all my bases, cross all my T's, dot all the I's, all that good stuff. So thanks again for watching. Like, subscribe, and share.